Hey everyone, I'm going to get started today. So, my name is Deanne Ellenberg, and I'm an occupational therapist at Springboard Pediatric Therapy. We are a multidisciplinary practice in Whippany, New Jersey. So, we have occupational therapy, speech therapy, and physical therapy all at our office, and work with children with a variety of needs. We are starting our new Nugget series. And our new Nugget series is meant to support the parents and the community, and for us to be a resource for parents, regardless of your child's needs. Since we are getting ready to go back to school, we thought we would do a back to school series. Today, we are presenting on Parent Power-Ups, Back to School Edition, Ready, Set, Succeed, First Day Essentials. So the agenda for today is we are going to discuss the big newness. A big thing about going back to school is things are new, and that can be really exciting. And sometimes exciting things and stressful things can both feel very similarly. We'll talk a little bit of how social stories can be a support, how to build your own social story, and then practice as a way to support the newness, as well as parents' strategies for a relaxed week. If you have any questions or comments while you're here, you can also put them in the chat, or we'll have some time at the end. So the big newness. I like to think about all the things that are new when we start school. So for some people, it's a new school. So transitioning from maybe preschool to an elementary school, or elementary to a middle or intermediate school. Someone's going to preschool for the first time. Pretty much irregardless of what school you're in, you have a new teacher, and that is something new that we have to adjust to. We don't know how they're going to like us or how we are going to like them. We can have some new friends in class, or new people in our class. There's going to be potentially some new routines or some adjusting back into a routine, which can still feel new, even though you did it for 185 days the previous year. We often buy new clothes for the new school year. While it's exciting to pick out a new backpack, that can come with its own excitements and challenges. Sometimes even a new lunchbox, and I'm sure we can think of some new things while we're presenting. Newness can be exciting, but it also can be overwhelming. A fun fact is I think it's really interesting to think about the way our body works. When we are excited, it is almost the same feeling as when we feel stressed internally. It's just kind of what our brain attributes it to. So if it's something exciting, then we tend to be happy. And if it's something kind of nerve-wracking, tend to be more likely to be resistant to something. And sometimes our brain gets confused. So we could be really excited and then turn nervous really quickly. It's kind of like that feeling that if we have coffee in the morning, sometimes we can feel a little stressed or anxious, even though it's just from the coffee. So when we remind ourselves it's just from the coffee, we sometimes are able to relax a little bit. So I think keeping that in mind for our children. So they might be really excited for a new school year, but maybe we're seeing some more resistance or really wanting mom or dad a little bit more. That can be the stress coming out in different ways. They're excited, but then they're also feeling that stress. Big way to support the big newness is with social stories. Social stories are homemade stories that include pictures and a story about what to expect and how to handle potential obstacles. I think one thing we tend to do as adults is talk to kids, which is great, but sometimes kids need visuals in order to help them. So a social story gives them that visual to pair with everything that we're telling them. It also gives them something that's theirs and they can take ownership of, so they can go through if they're feeling nervous of what to expect. They can even be a collaborator in the story. So when building a social story, I'll show you an example in just a moment. We want to take things that the child likes. So kind of start the story with going over things the child likes, maybe things they did this summer. Then you'll add information about the new school or the new school year, what to expect. You can draw connections between previous school years or previous things that they've done, so that way they feel like they might be good at it, and that can be empowering. You can also draw attention to some of the differences. So, for example, maybe they're in a new school. Oh, it might look different, but we still have circle time. So there's something familiar, even with the part that might be different and a little bit nerve-wracking. It can also talk about part that the child's nervous about and support problem solving, what to do with it. Sometimes, like I mentioned, I'll even make these stories with the child I'm working with, so that way they can kind of label the things that they like. When I show you an example, they can label the things they did this summer, and they might even talk about the parts that they're a little bit nervous about and help problem solve through those parts together. But then they have that visual representation of what to do. This is an example. I use myself. Um, so the sample is, hi, my name's Deanna, and I had an amazing summer. I went to the pool, Disney, and played with my Legos. Like I said, you can bring in what you did this summer. You can also make this section longer, if the child wants to. There's not really like a rule or guideline on how many pages each section could be. This year, I'm going to start my school at John Doe Elementary. I went to preschool there last year. We had time to play and sit in new desks, and I included a picture of the preschool. At my John Doe Elementary, I will be in Myths class. I will sit in that desk and go to circle time. So things that are going to be consistent from the previous year to now, or what is going to happen. I'll be in school all day. This can make me a little bit nervous. It made my mom a little sad to be away as well. You can also talk about your own feelings. So it's not just all on the child, but sometimes that pressure of just talking about the child's feelings makes them kind of feel like something wrong with me. But bringing in your feelings is, we are all people that have feelings. And that's something that we can connect about. When I get home from school, I will have time to play with my favorite toy again and have time for some reading with mom. So these are things he can or she can look forward to after the school day, and that moment to connect, maybe after being away. So that's just an example of a social story. You can make it longer and expand on some of those pages, add more pictures. If there's more things they're nervous about, you can add more pages to talk about those different obstacles. One thing I do recommend is, if we're talking about an obstacle, we should always have kind of a positive thing to go with every obstacle. So we don't want to only talk about one thing that was the same or one thing that they're excited about, and then have 5 obstacles that they might be facing. That mismatch can kind of make us feel more nervous. We want to have at least an even amount, if not more, positive things they're looking forward to, or things that are familiar, to be more than the areas of that might be a little bit more nervous about. Another big suggestion is to practice all the small new things. A lot of times we get things for school and we kind of we preserve them for the first day of school or once school starts. For example, the backpacks or the notebooks, and it's nice to think about all those things as for school. That can put a little bit of extra pressure on it, which can add to that stress. And it also might not give them that exposure to it beforehand. It also can really heighten that anticipation with that excitement to use everything, which we talked about. That excitement can sometimes also feel like nervousness, and kind of helping take the edge off, having some special time to practice using their new backpack. You could even take a family walk using a new backpack. That'd be a great idea. Fill it up, go on a walk. That adds in some heavy work, which releases feel-good chemicals into our brain as a family, maybe a couple days before school starts, which can also help take the edge off. Help them make sure they can master opening, closing it, and that they kind of know how it feels on their back. little things might feel bigger the first couple of days of school because they're adjusting back to a schedule. So the backpack might feel different than last year, or it might feel really heavy. So having that practice makes it less likely for them to get at the end of the day and just be like, oh, I don't like how the straps are feeling, or I don't have this right, or I'm frustrated with the zipper, and that feeling like a bigger problem because of everything else that came along with that day. We've kind of already practiced that. Another activities for thought is including familiar food in school lunches. Um, Depending on what your summer looked like, if you have time to practice kind of having lunch food that you might see at school, whether they're buying lunch or bringing lunch from home, so that feels familiar to them. Sometimes we can get into summer food lunches, whether that's more like homemade grilled cheeses or pizza or things that are a little bit more on the go. And we've gotten away from sandwiches or whatever you pack in the lunchbox. So if you haven't been practicing, seeing that, maybe we aren't liking that as much, or that wasn't our kind of preferred food. So trying it for a couple days, kind of getting into the pattern, can be helpful. Or if possible, we can also kind of put some of those favorite items into our lunch. So that way the lunch isn't feeling completely new. And the last thing we need is your child not eating at school and then being super hangry when they get home. That's just going to make that first day or first couple days a little bit harder. They're probably already going to be tired, and uh, helping them to make sure that they're eating is important. Kind of paired with lunch, but practicing opening and closing lunch containers. Sometimes if you go out and buy new lunch containers, the cute little bento boxes, making sure that they can open and close them, especially as children are getting older. They might see their friends opening and closing them. They might want that independence. So instead of seeing something new, which is really exciting the first day and getting stuck with it, practicing, making sure that they can master it before that first day. One that we don't necessarily think about, but sometimes we put a big emphasis on first day outfits. And first day outfits sometimes are a little bit nicer because we take a lot of pictures on the first day of school, or we might take a lot of pictures. I have a little bit of a note about that in a moment. But we would recommend that you wear the outfit at least for a little bit before the first day, maybe on that back to school walk that you're putting on, just to help them feel comfortable. And if it's not comfortable, maybe picking a different outfit, because again, last thing we want is just something else that's contributing to us not feeling our best on the first day of school. There's already a lot of other things that might be, I think of it sometimes like filling our cup. As we fill our cup, when we hit the top, that's when that fight, flight, or freeze response comes out more. So if now we're so excited about school, that's filling our cup. All our new friends. Now, if we have a little bit of discomfort with our outfit, that might be enough to send us over. So wearing it beforehand can be helpful. Then there's the practice the new big things. Schools tend to kind of know these, to try to do these big things. So they often offer, orientation day. But even this weekend, you can go to your child's school outside of the school, maybe take some pictures that you can put on that social story or help them feel familiar with school. If there was an orientation day, walking around the school, help them feel comfortable with that. Sometimes, especially for our younger kids, getting on the bus for the first time, they'll have a bus day, but just practicing that because it's kind of supposed to move pretty quickly. But those bigger things and just making it not the first time, that can feel like a lot, can be helpful. One thing I like to suggest to families, after school the first day, possibly the first couple days, planning for a low-key afternoon. Like I said, your child's cup might be full, or if not close to full, when they get home. So we want to drain that cup so that way they are able to fill it throughout the afternoon, and you're not working with someone that's emotionally dysregulated for the rest of the day. So I typically kind of set your expectations low. Plan for a calm, easy afternoon. This can be with their favorite activities like Legos or getting outside. Getting outside gives us a lot of physical input, which again can release all sorts of different neurochemicals to help us relax. It's also something they can look forward to if they're feeling a little nervous at school. Allowing for rest and favorite activities. Having healthy snacks readily available, even if this is apples or bagged apples and goldfish. You don't have to put on the chef's table of snacks, but just having something to make sure that they're not, again, getting to that hangry level, and they can have a snack when they get home. Especially for some kids, engaging in that special time together. They are going from potentially being with you a lot this summer to having a day away from you. So they might just want some to read, connect a little bit. That said, going into the talking questions, you were probably so excited to hear about their day at school. But sometimes when they're kind of tapped, that's a harder time for them to be able to think about and tell you everything. So maybe hold the questions until maybe they have their snack or a little bit more regulated. And sometimes asking targeted questions can be more helpful than the did you have fun or the open-ended vague what did you do today. You can ask more specific questions like who did you sit next to today, or did you read a book today, and kind of asking those specific questions so they can give you more answers versus having to think of, wow, there were so many things I did today. Now I have to name one. And that's when we get the, I don't know, or it was fun, kind of those vague answers, asking more targeted questions. One thing I like to kind of talk to parents about too when starting school is be the calm. There's something really cool about our brains as humans. We have something called mirror neurons in our brain. It's what allows us to be empathetic with each other. We can kind of sense, you can probably sense if your child's had a good day or a hard day. And the opposite is true. Your child can sense things in you. The difference is as we get older, our brain allows us to kind of make decisions of, am I calm or what am I showing on the outside? Showing calm or showing frustration. Children really don't have this ability. It's called an executive functioning ability, and that doesn't develop until the later years. It's kind of even starts around the age of 7, but isn't mastered until teenage years or even later than that. We can be developing our executive functionings from to age 21 to 25. So adults are able to kind of be like, I'm frustrated, but I can manage this. Children have a lot of a harder time with that. So as the adult, you can help your child's regulation by trying to emulate that calm because their mirror neurons can pick up on yours and that can help them be calm. Similarly, if we're kind of rushing to the bus stop and kind of be like, go, 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 that faster paced language can also rev them up. And then that's when you might get more of that resistance or that stress response. So preparing yourself is a way that we can be the calm because when we're stressed, our own executive functioning that allows us to kind of show calm has a harder time working. So the more we're prepared, the less we have to think, and the more we can kind of go. So starting our morning routine early, if that helps, so maybe setting your alarm 15 or 20 minutes earlier so you're not feeling rushed in the morning. Taking deep breaths and building a practice of deep breathing can be helpful. One thing that is helpful to note, it's really helpful to start this before we're feeling stressed. So maybe tomorrow morning, waking up, taking your minute of mindfulness. A lot of watches have it on there. And practicing that daily so that way when on this more stressful days, you're still remembering adding in that regulator. Sometimes we have to think about our own regulation strategies and thinking about your own voice. I always like to say, even if we make a mistake, any hard day is just a learning opportunity. What can I do for next time? Or how can I help prepare myself so I can show this regulation for next time? So like I said, kids mirror your energy and readiness. So if you stay calm, they're more likely to emulate that. If you're feeling rushed, they're more likely to emulate that as well. It doesn't have to be a perfect morning with pictures and the perfect breakfast. It's just starting a new routine, and that's an accomplishment. I know that a lot of times we like to document this time of year too with pictures, sometimes a special board, first day outfits. You can also stage that another day. So while it's exciting to get it on their first day, sometimes if they're photo shy, or just it's a rushed morning, that's okay if you don't get the snapshot. You can always replay that day 3 days later. You could get in the same outfit, and it takes the pressure off of that moment, but you're able to capture your pictures. So that's just a small tip, especially if your child's a little bit more photo shy or photo resistant. If that, and then I think I might have mentioned, but starting the morning routine a few days early so it doesn't feel different, doesn't feel like this is so different and that being that stressful aspect. So you're kind of getting into the routine of that. Another area, and I think our last area to talk about before we're done for today, is to practice validation. The first day of school can bring big feelings, can bring nervousness kind of before or even after, because maybe you don't make a big friend the first day. Maybe it takes a few days. Maybe they're really tired because the day felt longer and it started to get structured again. Validate feelings is so important. And it kind of saying, I know you're nervous, or I can see that you're nervous, or thanks for telling me that you're nervous, but then also helping them move through it. So I hear that you're nervous. Remember, we read our social story or whatever book, the name of the book that you read. I know that you can do this and you have all the tools to do this. So validation and helping them move through is kind of that big combination. That kind of also shows them you're hearing the emotion, but you trust that you want to put them in a situation that they should be nervous about. So it kind of helps them to kind of have that that mom wouldn't put me or dad wouldn't put me somewhere I can't do. So I must be able to do it and I will get through it. So that moving through is also an important step. Also building their confidence after the first day of school. Wow, you were really nervous, but you were able to do it. We're already done with one day. So kind of talking about maybe how something was perceived really hard, but they were able to get through it. So that can also be evidence for themselves. That was hard, but I can do it. I think sometimes if all the emotions are personal emotions too, it's okay to talk about yours. I felt sad to let you go to school today too because I missed you, but now you're home and we get to have family time. So again, they're seeing that everyone in the family has emotions and it's not just all about them. Take a minute if anyone wants to either say any questions or type some questions in the chat. I'm going to stop recording in just a moment. That said, next week, September 4th, is Morning Routine Masters. So there's some tips and tricks to kind of get out of the door in the morning for all sorts of kids, whether it's hard to wake up, dragging your feet, or just a hard time getting all the pieces together in the morning, I will be there. So I'm going to stop presenting, or sorry, stop recording, and